This is The Resilient Life, where we believe that every human will struggle in this life. Our challenge is to struggle well. I'm Ryan Manion. I lost my brother to war, my mom to cancer, and I'm the daughter of a retired Marine. I'm also a wife, mom, author, and president of one of the nation's leading veteran service organizations. Join me and some incredible guests as we explore the value of struggling well through life's inevitable challenges. Welcome to another episode of the Resilient Life podcast, coming to you today with Rudy Reyes, conservationist and Marine veteran ambassador. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, okay, I have to tell you this story. So we have a mutual friend, and he's been talking about you for a while, kind of sharing the things that you're doing, keeping me up to speed on things. And he says to me just a few weeks ago, he's like, hey, listen, I think you should have Rudy on your podcast. And he's like, remember my friend Rudy that I was telling you about, Recon Marine? And I was like, absolutely. I mean, honestly, I was like, if he's a Recon Marine, like, yeah, I'll have him on, like, done. And so I've got an 8-year-old son, and he's like, Mom, there's this new show coming on and we have to watch it together. And I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's telling me all about this new show, Special Forces. And he pulls up on YouTube, like, the trailer for it, right? And he pulls up the trailer. And as soon as I saw Kate Gosselin and reality and like special training, I was like, I'm in. I'll totally watch this with you, bud.
Yes.
And we turn it on and I'm like, holy shit, that's Rudy as one of the instructors. So the first night that it aired, we watched the 2-hour episode, and I was dying because Kate Gosselin was out of the show in 10 minutes, which no surprise.
Yeah.
I predicted she was the first one out, and she was, but she didn't even last as long as I thought she would. It was very, very interesting.
She was falling out after the initial shock of capture. We had shock of capture on the train, and you could tell she did not want to be there. She was falling out, and we had her number. We had her number, Ryan.
I got to tell you, she's one person. I watched John and Kate Plus 8. I was a young mom, so I was watching that show, and she's crazy. And so I saw her go out, and I mean, literally, you guys are running to where they're sleeping, and she's already falling. And I'm like, oh my God. But that, let's start. And there's so much I want to talk about.
I know.
Start with that show because, so Concept, for those that haven't seen it, and it's still airing. It's Wednesday nights, right, on Fox?
Wednesday nights at, I think, 2000 at 8:00 East Coast time. And just check local listings. Just get on Fox. You'll see. Just go to Times Square. You'll see us on there. Just go to Times Square and you will see Special Forces World's Toughest Test. But yeah, we're easy to find. You can also get on Hulu. And if you miss the episode, you just catch it streaming whenever you'd like. So check it out on Hulu as well. It is a derivative of a show I've been doing in the UK for a few years now. It's SAS Who Dares Wins. And for my audience out there that may or may not know too much about the special operations community, SAS, the Brits' original special operations force, a raider force, we model in America much of our selection and much of our culture from the SAS, SBS. It was a massive honor that they chose me, Recon Marine, to come over as a chief instructor. And I take that honor very seriously. I represent our country. I represent Recon. I represent the Marine Corps, and I give it everything I've got. And it's been very successful. I have a few seasons now coming out that we shot in Vietnam. Gnarly, hardcore, gnarly. I mean, the jungle's trying to kill you. Some of the crew members were bitten by cobras. People are going down for anaphylactic shock just because of the heat and humidity. And we're running a course. It's not a reality show. What you're watching on Fox, Special Forces, is not a reality show. We run the course, and that's that. And you see how it shakes out. We lose people very quickly.
Yeah. So, not a reality show, but you take a bunch of, and I like D-list celebrities through.
Wait a second. We've got Olympians. We've got
Oh, yes.
Olympian gold
Well, I was
medalists.
gonna say that D-list celebrities like the
Okay.
Jamie Lynn Spears and the Kate Goslings, right? And then you have
Okay.
yes, and you've got like Anthony Scaramucci, and then
Man, you know what, Ryan? I got something sad to share. Um, in the Marine Corps and in Recon, we are very, very close spiritually and emotionally because we go through such hard training and combat together. And we're away from our families and away from any comfort for months and sometimes years at a time. And we tend to not have duplicity or layers of selfishness that regular people have. And I thought by sharing our experience as warriors, first of all, hats off to my British SAS brother, who's like the older brother, my older brother in my life now. His name's Billy Billingham. SAS Paras and then SAS 33-year career, POW twice, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Then we got SBS brother, Jason Fox, Royal Marine Commando, and then SBS. So freaking stout. After he got out of SBS, he rode from London to South America. I mean, all right. And then we have Navy SEAL, my brother Remy Adeleke, an orphan from Nigeria that made himself somebody. We give this course, which I think is the most loving, most American, most free world experience, because we take away all comforts and niceties and strip these people down to who they really are. I thought that that is something very special. So I became friends after the course with some of the celebrities and recruits. And one of the celebrities later through the episodes show the celebrity in not such a great light, because again, we don't reshoot anything. We just run the course. There's no way to manufacture. We just run the course and it shakes out as it shakes out. And I was accused of like being a two-face and taking for granted this person's friendship and hospitality. And I could not understand that experience coming back to me when I believe I've given these people, every one of them, whether they make it to the first day or to the end, I've given them opportunity that it took the rest of the men up there on that freaking platform to go through blood, sweat, and tears and lose a piece of ourselves, lose our brothers, lose our wives, lose our families, lose our sanity. And here we are up there on this dais, on this stage, on the freaking parade square, giving these civilians an opportunity of a lifetime to walk in our boots. And it kind of blew up in my face with one of these cats. And wow, what a reminder that the military and service, to include law enforcement and firefighting and first responders, a service-driven community, we are different. We are different than civilians.
Yeah.
And I want to create a dialogue between civilians, start working together as citizens. But sometimes I'm reminded there is a difference.
Yeah, one of the interesting things that I saw, and so I've been watching the show with my 8-year-old son. He loves it, and I told him I was interviewing you today, and he asked if he could stay home from school.
Oh, what a sweetie!
I told him he could not, but you are by far the most interesting guest that I've ever had on the show.
Oh, thank you.
My 8-year-old son Travis, and but one of the things that we would do, and that's a real point, like you're giving civilians this opportunity to go through special forces training, right? Training
Yes.
that you as a Recon Marine went through. And if you haven't watched the show, it's like no joke. Like the first thing, and I say it kidding, like Kate Gosling dropped out right away. I mean, she hurt herself. I do quotation marks. But you have them going out of a helicopter, but they have to do that like backwards roll where they you know, you have to really have the mentality to let your body take it yourself backwards, which I'm sitting there analyzing every single thing. And all you're asking them to do is try it. So if they can't execute the job, they're not out. And what I found fascinating as I was watching it is, you know, again, I don't know if mentally when I was watching them propel out of the helicopter, I'm like, I don't know if my mind would have been prepared to let me fall backwards, right? And to do that maneuver. But I would have tried. But what I found so interesting, it was in, I don't know if it was that episode or the second episode. It was, and I can't remember the guy if he was a baseball player, but it was when they were rappelling from one mountain to another, and you had the two ropes. And
postman's walk.
Yeah,
the postman's walk.
The postman's walk. And the one guy is like, I'm not doing it. He's like, I'm just.
Oh, he was the chef. He was the
yeah.
chef that on his interview said, well, you know, cooking at Michelin level and running a kitchen is a lot like being a special operations professional or something like that. And he didn't even give it a try. And, you know, Ryan, I respect every one of those civilians that got out there with no initial boot camp imprinting. Like, you know, in Marine Corps boot camp, the word we use as yes and affirmative is kill. So off jump, it's kill. And we are conditioned, completely separated for 3 months and conditioned. And then we're layered upon to do this. These civilians, even the athletes, and they're magnificent. A sport and a game has a start and a finish. A battle or a war can last for decades. And so that sense of scope is very, very different. So I applaud them all. A couple of standouts was, for me, first is Kenya Moore, the black lady, the mean lady from Real Housewives of Atlanta.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, she was all in. It was lovely to work with her. She's not necessarily young. She's beautiful. She's 51. Wow. And we are thrashing her in the desert. And that backward dive, that is a test, what they call in the UK, a bottle test. Like, you got enough spirit in you.
Yeah.
Bottle, or you tough. You know, we demonstrate everything. And when you watch the show out there, you notice the DS, the directing staff, we demonstrate everything and show you how to do it and show you it's possible. She executed everything. And when it came to the red man, I'm the red man, I'm the fighter, and I have them fight through me. And of course, the men, I fight very, very hard and meet force with force. The women, I give them some force and then let them work through me. She came at me like a freaking hellion. And so we find out she's from Detroit. She had a real hard upbringing, and she's made herself into, you know, a multimillionaire with her business. And now she's a mother, and she's been through a battered relationship. She's been a battered woman. And she came out on that course and let it all hang out. And I said to her, what I know about you, Kenya, is that you're backstabbing, you're cruel, you're undercutting, you're hurtful to other women, you're a bully of the show. Well, that is so different than the recruit I am experiencing on this course. Can you tell me about it? And she said, well, that's what I had to do. That's what I had to do. I was abandoned. I was given up. I had to fight and claw for everything I had. And that's what I had to do. But I don't want to do that no more. I want to be a mother to my child and show my child how to be. Anyway, really compelling stuff as a human being, very compelling.
Yeah. And I'm a big Real Housewives fan. So I know the Atlanta season, and yeah, she was the villain. But I would have never doubted that she would have been one of the toughest people there, because you just kind of saw that in her. But if you haven't seen the show, go and watch
the show.
Yeah, it's good. It's good TV, and there's not a lot.
It is good TV.
Yes.
Ryan, it's #1 in the space. It's #1. I mean, this is so wonderful. We had a big party at one of my NFLers' house for the first episode, friends, family, pro athletes, everybody's cheering me. And I've been in the entertainment business 12 years, and this business will hurt your feelings. All right. And I've had many projects that were magnificent that went nowhere. So I smiled and I was happy for everybody being happy for me, but I did not count my blessing, or I didn't count my chickens before they hatched. Who knows? Maybe it tanked in the ratings. Who knows? Needless to say, later in the week, #1 show ever streamed, #1 in the ratings. We're doing freaking great. I'm sure we're going to multiple seasons after this. Fox is stoked. Really, really wonderful. And it all started from the UK SAS Who Dares Wins, which by happenstance, I did a documentary, a heavy documentary, a UK documentary called Once Upon a Time in Iraq. And it's 6, 7 different people involved in the Iraq war. Me as a commando, an Iraqi soldier, a officer, a doctor, a refugee. And it's called Once Upon a Time in Iraq. It won the BAFTA. It won the Oscar for Best Documentary in the UK. And because of that, the audience and the people out there in the UK say, we want Rudy Reyes. And when they brought me over there, it's exploded, and then Fox picked us up. So my advice to any of the veterans and all of my veteran family out there, whatever you're doing to live your dream or pursue your passion, it will take longer than you expect, but never give up. Stay in the fight and it will come true.
I love that. And, to see what you're doing today, it's very cool. And again, anything that brings a positive light to our military community, I'm all for, and cheering from the sidelines. But, some of the things I learned when researching you, Rudy, was I was astonished by your upbringing and kind of the hard road that you had to follow to get where you are today. You were born to a Vietnam veteran Marine. Your young mother ended up being raised for a short time by your grandparents, and then went into kind of the system, right?
Yep. In and out of the system, and in and out of this person or that person's hands. And ultimately, I had to take care of myself. And I had 2 little brothers. And I was so inspired to protect them because myself, as the oldest, had already been at the spearhead of abuse and neglect. And I was seeing some of the abuse and neglect coming to my brothers too. And I mean, we all had worms. We all had lice. My little brother, Michael, he was, 6 at the time. He says, Woody, he couldn't say R's very well back then. Woody, I've got snakes. There's snakes in the toilet. And it was freaking worms. And we all had worms. And we had to shave our heads because we couldn't afford to go to to a barber or whatever. So we shaved our heads to get rid of the lice. And it was rough, and it was very, very tough. And for an American, it was tough. I do preface it with having that chip on my shoulder from really coming from poverty and neglect and abuse. It gave me a competitive spirit early on, and it was honed in sport and then honed in martial art, and then really it bloomed in the Marine Corps. I started fighting in the Middle East, and then doing work, counterterrorism in Africa, and working in the Far East. I recognized that when I saw those poor children who have a very good chance of being murdered, and the environment I grew up in on the streets and in the boys' home was competitive and violent, and I was abused. But at least I had an opportunity to improve my wrestling and get into sport and lift weights and eat food to make myself stronger and to repel the enemy's assault the next time the big boy came to my freaking room in the middle of the night. When I went and spent time with these people around the world that even our poorest here would seem rich to them, it softened me, and it gave me a bigger perspective And I think that's why sometimes I have a difficult time with where our country is at now. There is so much taken for granted, and there's so much political and social critique when these people don't even know what life is about.
Yeah.
And they definitely don't know how easy it is to be taken from you, you know?
I'll never forget one of the things we do through the Travis Manion Foundation is service expeditions. We take families of fallen service members all across the world to give back, honor our loved ones by giving
Yes.
back in service to others. And we had been going to Guatemala for a few years, and
Mhm.
somebody had suggested, like, Ryan, why don't you go? You should experience what these
Mhm.
our families are experiencing. And we went to Guatemala, and we were in a very San Raimundo, very, like, we were in the jungle. We were in a very tribal
Yes.
village in Guatemala. It was a couple hours away from Guatemala City, and I had never ever experienced poverty in what I saw. And it was,
Mhm.
that word perspective, like, it was, you know, you think you know it until you're actually just in it. And we were building a house. And when I say house, it was literally like a Lincoln log house, no electricity, no running water, but it was a roof over the head for a family with, 5 or 6 kids. And we couldn't even communicate with these people because their language was, again, so tribal that you couldn't,
Yes.
our Spanish speaking individuals were having trouble communicating with them. But currently where they were living, it was in the woods, and they were in the jungle, and they were under a blue tarp. They had a blue tarp. Literally, that was it. A blue tarp to shield them from the rain. The woman walked up, and on the last day when their house was being built, they were all crying. And
Oh, fuck.
we placed pictures of our loved ones, and we had built a shelf, and we all had a little framed pictures of our loved ones, and we put them up on the shelf. And we kind of broke down that language barrier where they understood, like, this is why this house was built, because these men and women died protecting us, and we want to give back to you. But I came back, and I've since gone on. I just got back from Puerto Rico last week doing a similar service trip. Every time I come back, I almost have anger towards the opportunity that is here in America and is not taken advantage of.
Yes.
It's like deep anger.
Yes.
Like, what are you guys all complaining about? You don't even understand.
Yes. Yes. I was just 2 months in Vietnam. And I, being the only American on the program, the only American there, I had to do some cultural research, and I had to take some classes because, the communist Vietnam still may have issues with us, right? I have to tell you what, those people were the warmest, happiest people. They were so loving and embracing of me. They called me Rambo. They loved spending time with me. I led some workouts too when I wasn't filming. And still, you're seeing the 50 and 60-year-old women in the rice paddies carrying, 50, 70, 100 pounds of rice on their back, or pulling the water buffalo and working the fields. And you see children helping their parents. I saw some children helping their elder skinning a freaking snake to eat. And all of the children laughing and smiling. I saw a 6-year-old girl that had the opportunity to have a bicycle that was way too big for her. And she wore these like flip flops with like extra, another flip flop glued to it so she could reach the pedals. And she's going for it. These people would do anything to be here. And the production people on the Vietnamese side of the house, they wish they could come back with me and pursue their dreams. They can only work this job for so long as the party says they can work it. And then here we have in this wonderful country every opportunity in the world to be who we want to be. And it seems that as of late, it's being squandered. And it is hard for me to sit with. I live in the South now. I do not live in LA. I do not live in New York City. I do not live in Miami. Um, I do not live in Dallas. I don't live in Austin. I don't live in the hubs and the film business hubs and all of that. I live in South Carolina, and there's American flags down my neighbors down the street within all my neighbors' houses, and I'm insulated. And is it fancy here? No. Do we have some rad restaurants and stuff? No. It's in some places pretty poor. However, these people are Americans, and they're kind and loving people, and they're the people that I remember fighting for. So that's why I'm here.
Yeah, I think, that's something else that I always recall when I go on these service trips, is that when you see these kids in these poor environments, they're probably the happiest kids you ever saw. And
Yes, you notice.
it's the craziest thing. They walk around with the hugest smiles on their face. And I brought a camera last time when I was in Guatemala. Somebody had recommended that I bring a Polaroid camera. And so I brought one, I loaded it on film. And my family, I started taking pictures of the kids, and I was handing them their pictures, and they were flipping out because
I bet they get a picture of themselves smiling.
Yeah. And not only that, they were saying some of these kids don't even know what they look like. They don't go to school. There's no mirror.
They have mirrors.
They're like, oh my God, this is a picture of me. Next thing you know, I mean, word spread around the village like wildfire. I had like a line 70 deep of all these little kids and thank God I brought extra, but that was one of the coolest things I did, was take those Polaroid pictures.
Yes.
It was very cool.
Yes. It's very powerful. Think about what you're expressing to these little ones, a sense of self for the first time in their lives, to be objective about themselves and see themselves with a secondary or tertiary viewpoint. And wow, this is me now, but who do I want to be? This is really powerful stuff. And then we here in America really take it for granted. We have opportunity for education and literacy and clean water and clean streets that many places in the world do not have. We are free to criticize, government, or criticize policy, to criticize theology and ways of thinking, and we don't have secret police that come and disappear us, never to be found again. We have so much here, yet for some reason, maybe we've been so successful for so long, we are now looking for a war to fight amongst each other. It's very, very interesting. I believe I'm doing the best I can with Special Forces and with SAS Who Dares Wins. I also am the co-founder of Force Blue. So I rebuild coral reefs and do ocean conservation with other commandos like myself from all forces. And we bring in Gold Star families and teach their children to do ocean conservation and make them divers as well. I'm doing my best. I do not do Twitter. I have a small Instagram. I guess it's pretty big, but I'm just myself, and I stay above the fray from all of that petty, that petty adolescent narcissism that has gripped our entire country. And I've seen men and women, 19, 20 years old, manning machine guns and crossing a line of departure with no idea when they will come home and fighting forward. I have seen men and women heroes. And to think we have people now in our middle age in this country that are stuck as adolescents pointing fingers. So it's hard for me to deal with. So I just keep giving more. Keep giving more. And, so you leave the Marine Corps and you kind of step into the entertainment industry. And I'll tell you, it was funny this morning when I was telling my 8-year-old son that I was interviewing you, and I said, oh, Rudy Reyes. And I said, Travis, guess who I'm interviewing? And when I said your name, it didn't click with him right away. And I said, no, Rudy from Special Forces, one of the instructors. Oh, wow.
He said, oh yeah. And my husband looks at me and he goes, Ryan, he's not Rudy from Special Forces. He's Rudy from Generation Kill.
They should kill. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And I was
right.
Yeah, and I honestly was like, I don't know what that is, you know, but right away,
Yeah,
it's like, stop saying
it is.
Special Forces. He's from Generation Kill.
Yeah. Have you seen it yet?
I have
you
not
seen Generation Kill?
I have not.
All of the Marine Corps, all of the Marine Corps for the last 25 years. That is our stamp of our culture. Message to Garcia, getting an order. We're going to cut the head off the snake. We don't even know what it looks like. And we're doing regime change, baby. Saddam, you're going down. We don't know how we're going to do it. You don't have to tell us how we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. And it's the funniest and most savage and honest portrayal of modern combat. And that is why our brothers of all forces, especially America, actually, and UK as well. Oh my gosh, a recon brother of mine that runs combat dive school. He is in Sweden for this massive freaking combat dive symposium of all of our special forces. A Canadian EOD diver. I'm his hero, and I inspired him to join. It's just amazing that my humble step forward into service, because we were fighting in Kosovo and I felt I had to do my part. I was relatively pacifist. I'd never used guns because I come from the street and I seen what guns do. I come from hard streets, and I was a martial artist, and in fighting in martial arts and fighting in competition, there are rules, and I am not going to kill you and you're not going to kill me. There are boundaries, and I forged my character with what is right and what is wrong. I stepped into the Marine Corps to have those boundaries moved very far left and right, because I'm fighting for something so freaking big that now I have to kill. I'm a scout sniper as well. And initially, how hard it was for me to even see film of real world missions of enemies' heads being blown apart and ripped apart, and studying film for deflection. And here I am, a Lance Corporal, 1999 in Quantico, going through these hard schools. And, you know, it's a little sad. And however, the conditioning, the training, and then we were in the Persian Gulf when the towers were hit. So we went straight into fight to Pakistan and Afghanistan. The love for country and corps, the love for the unit supersedes your emotional well-being and safety. The love and passion for something greater supersedes your individual life. And talk about expanding your consciousness. No wonder we had struggles. All of us have struggles afterwards. To be expanded that far, and even when doing the right thing, still civilian casualties or economic implosion in which you keep going back to fight over and over, and you can't seem to make a difference. These are the things that, you know, we all will carry with us the rest of our lives. And some of us just become hard. And I was hard for a while, but that was not, then that started falling apart. So I just supplemented it with drugs and alcohol and work. I just thought, okay, I'll outwork this, and I'll out drug it, I'll out drink it, I'll out fight it. Well, that didn't work either. You know, I was the poster child, best and brightest, and even I fell apart after I was a TV star. So everybody would imagine that with some modicum of success and fame, that would cure it. It did not. None of it mattered, because I had nothing that I was living for that was grand and deep and honorable, and something that could fill the void that had been created by combat, sacrifice, love, and loss. Because that's what combat is. It's all those things, you know. And until I started Force Blue, then I got clean, and then I met my soon-to-be wife, my fiance Jade, and then all of a sudden my career comes back. It wasn't until I created something, because I couldn't find anything. I was a contractor. I was a counter-terror guy. I had the raddest dudes on my team. I had the muscles. I had the guns. I had the know-how and license to kill. that didn't, that didn't fill up that void either. It wasn't until Force Blue, betterment, buoyancy, and belonging brought me back to who I really am. And and now, man, you just can't hold me back.
Well, yeah, interestingly enough, you touched on like a little bit of the trauma that you dealt with, the love and the loss while serving, losing your brothers out there. And I'll say there's so many, you asked, did you watch Generation Kill? I didn't, because for me, it's still too raw for me to watch things like
I understand. I don't watch war films from any of that era. It's too personal.
Yeah.
If I see the sand or I hear the things, I go back. I did the damn film. It's a mini series. I, in a sense, was cathartically work. I had just been out of Fallujah a couple years before, and fighting in Fallujah and Ramadi, gnarly as fuck. And I was almost happy that I could be of service on this set, that someone would care what we've been through. But later, when it came out, watching it was too much. So I don't think I've seen the whole thing.
And it's funny you say this generation. Like, I can watch Band of Brothers. I've watched
Yes,
any movie.
the Pacific,
Yeah,
the Pacific.
all of that, no problem. But if it is something regarding the current conflict, like what was what was the one movie that came out very early on with Jeremy Renner?
The Hurt Locker.
Hurt Locker. So I remember turning that movie on, and I got about halfway through, and I'm like, I'm just not ready for this. And yes. I still feel that way. I'm like, I don't need to expose myself to these things, which, I wasn't serving, but I experienced the trauma of my brother coming home in a flag draped casket. And so for me,
right.
I don't need to watch what happened, in theater with all of you guys. And,
Ryan, all of our family members and loved ones, you all are the hidden veteran. You're the hidden veterans. Yes. Holy smokes. I was married before. It devastated my ex-wife over and over, me going to fight and me coming back bigger, stronger, more dangerous, more responsibility, and less her husband, less and less a human being. My little brother, I guess once I started drinking and doing hard drugs, I used to fight a lot. And he said, "You're not my brother. I don't know who you are. You're not my brother." And back then I would just say, "Fuck all of you. You don't know any fucking thing. Fuck you. You're weak." It's just it's immense. And how do you even express it? It takes so much energy and time to untangle it and keep the good stuff, but absolutely throw the bad stuff away. It takes 10 years, at least. It takes 10 years. And I used to think it was just me that was having problems. So I never shared it. I just medicated myself or kept getting stuck in with some work. Whether it's
let me ask you,
go ahead.
You thought it was just you. Did you also feel like you're going on these deployments, you're coming back bigger, better, stronger, more of a Marine's Marine? Did you ever feel almost ashamed to express that you were suffering mentally? Did you feel that stigma of saying, I don't want to tell people that I'm dealing with some shit?
My ex-wife was having an affair my first fucking 4 years in, because I was such a freaking Rudy Recon. I was in school after school and schooled out and training packages and meritoriously promoted. I was so into it. I was not home. And I wasn't home really and I thought, hey, all of my jump, dive, danger pay, all my money goes home. When I see my ex-wife every few months, I'm freaking fit. I'm happy. I get to see her for 4 days. What more could you want? Right? I didn't understand anything really. except I was a young, strong Marine with great people who I admired, and I wanted to be like them. And so slowly but surely, I just became colder to the humanities. When you have to help, when you go into a village where they think because you're a medic and you have these magical abilities to help these people that have DNA damage from radiation, and they're all albinos and mentally retarded, and they think we can help them with our medic packs. When you uh, when in the cover of darkness, vehicles are coming through your lines, and you put out your signs out there, turn away, and they come through, and you smoke all those people, and then you find out they can't read. These are the things that you're dealing with. And then of course the good times are when you're killing the enemy and your missions are shit hot and it's just so elevated. I'm thinking back now, I don't know, I might be scared to do some of the stuff I did back then. I'd be like, whoa, let's hold a bit. Let's think about this, how we could do this maybe a little bit safer. It just skews your vision on life. And I didn't notice that I was having real mental problems until I was no longer working, like for 1 week. I was successful as a coach and trainer, and then I was doing Generation Kill, which is a 1.5-year process. And then I was doing some survival stuff. And then I had a lull. All of a sudden, I felt so absolutely lonely, and I couldn't sleep. And I used to work out all the time, like 6, 7 hours a day, in hope that I would be exhausted enough to sleep at night. And I was obsessed with readiness. I always had weapons. I was always training. I was obsessed with readiness. I was holding on to readiness as my savior because I was so scared to death of this world. I went to the VA. Of course, all they did is give me medication. I tried it for a couple of days, freaked out, said none of that, and tried counseling. There was no counseling back then. Not that anybody knows what to say anyway. I think we have found in our community being back together and sharing each other's testimonies and the basics, getting clean and sober, physical fitness, a purpose that's involving God and family, and then a job. You get those 4 pillars and you can do anything. But we need each other to express that and work together to do that. Big government doesn't seem to be doing a very good job.
And did you turn to any of your friends that you had served with at the time to say, hey, I'm struggling?
Yes, but so we just got a lot more cocaine and vodka, and then everybody was fine. Yeah. Oh, that's what you're feeling down? Don't worry, let's chop up some lines and we'll be fine. Next thing you know, there's 6 of us freaking commandos in one room for 3 days, and then on the 3rd day we're all crying and rinse and repeat for a few years.
Yeah. So okay, you say purpose, job. What were the other 2?
Spirituality, God, family, a connection, a hierarchy,
and then getting clean. But what was the first step that went from you in the room with a bunch of commandos snorting lines of coke to shit, I got to get help? Like something has to give. Like did you wake up one day and just say, I'm done?
I made such an absolute train wreck of my life for about 8 years and still made it look good, I guess. So I was very lucky. I never went to jail for my street fights. I was very lucky. I never got busted drinking and driving and or with drugs. I was very lucky that somehow I kept my physique together so I could still work. But eventually, I had a little baby son. I have my little son. And I won't say his name to protect the family and stuff. But by the way, it's going great now. I just got to FaceTime with him for the first time in 5 years for Christmas. And now with, I take care of child support and sports and I have dialogue, but he was taken from me because I was not well, not fit, and dangerous. And I went to court spent a lot of money, lost a lot of work, had a restraining order out on me. And, I think it's very important for me to express these things because there's a lot of brothers and sisters that are going through this, but no one's really talking about it. And they think it's just them. It's not just you, it's all of us. Me going to court and sometimes still blitzed, but with my suit on and just raging. And then finally, it's sinking in that I can't see my son until I do a year's worth of therapy and that I have to pay for. And I'm flying back and forth to St. Louis for court. And I was just at rock bottom. And I was very close to taking my life. I just thought, man, Rudy, you used to be somebody, and now you're nothing. And you were raised without a father and without a family, and now you're not there for your son. My whole world came crashing down. I'd been up for a few days. I would just, and I never even drank alcohol till I was 37 years old. I didn't do drugs till I was 38. I'd been driven and clean. I'd been a straight edge idealist my whole life. That's probably why I've aged really well. I'm 51 years old, and I've aged really well because of such a long life of discipline. Well, when you stop not caring about yourself and believing that you have no place in the world, all that goes away. Um, I had my pistol, and I always had weapons, and I was starting to think, well, I'm just going to kill myself. I think I've had enough. I'm useless. And as I looked at my pistol, I just felt this force, this God's like force and voice, not in words, but I had this feeling there must be something more for you, or if there's no way you could be here now, because it's a miracle you're here. So just put the gun down. We're going to make it somehow. Like God's voice saying, we're going to make it somehow. Just have patience, or just know that we're going to make it. Boom, got on the phone, called my little brother Caesar, told him to take the guns out of the house, threw away the drugs, started getting clean and sober that day, of course, working out over a few weeks of improvement and passion. I started making some moves, and then Force Blue started manifesting. I said, okay, if there's nothing for me to put my skills of war into, to do things to be a weapon of mass construction instead of a weapon of mass destruction, then I'll make something. Called my friends, called Roger Sparks, legend, recondo, and pararescue, a pararescueman, highest decorated man of all time. My SEAL brother, Jeff Reeves, some recon dudes. I call my friends. I said, what do you think of this idea? My man, Jim Ritteroff, filmmaker, BFF through my recovery road, and diver. He said, okay, let's get something together. I know a little bit about business. And I said, I know freaking diving. I know what I can do with my people. We created it. Now I really feel like I have a reason to live. And that's how it started snowballing. That's how, now we're sponsored by the NFL and Pepsi. You'll see us at the Super Bowl every year. And now we're teaching children of the fallen. It is just profound what one small step forward into real grace and real purpose. You'll be amazed. There's so many people waiting for you, so many people and so many opportunities waiting for you. And that's how it all started.
So it was that moment of epiphany almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They took my baby was gone.
Yeah.
My little son was gone, and it was, and I raised him. By the way, I was in a mental institution for a whole year too. Clean and sober living, freaking AA, or freaking anonymous times a million of everything. That didn't help either. Matter of fact, you know what? I think the first Travis Manion run in San Diego, maybe it was 2011 or 12. It might have been the second run. I got a special pass from the Veterans Village of San Diego to go run, and it might have been 2012, and
it was 2012.
It was 2012. I was smoking tons. You were there. I was smoking tons of cigarettes because I was losing my mind with a bunch of deadbeats in this veteran program. No warriors, no freak. It was all criminals and all drug addicts and prostitutes, and I'm in here with general population of some really heinous people. And I say, Rudy, you're not going to quit this. You're going to take it the whole year. And then I got a pass to go to that run. And I won number 1 in 40 over. And everybody said, no fucking way. This guy ain't 40. I went up there, wow, you know what I mean? I got the medal, and I'll send you some pictures of it. And the t-shirt and everything. And then a couple of my Recon brothers, so they're like, Frankie, you're awesome, how's it going? Hey, we're going to go out and have some beers. I'm like, I got to go to the Veteran Village in San Diego. They're like, are you working there? And I said, no, I'm a patient. Yeah. It gave me some freaking burst of happiness and light, like getting back to my community. And yeah, I mean, I guess something inside of me, was it DNA? Is it passion? Is it the men that I always looked up to in Recon and my Kung Fu teacher? Is it my comic book superheroes? I have all my comic books. Is it that something that made me keep trying, even if just a little bit? Maybe it is, but I do know there was a time when I was ready to end it all. And I used to think, this will never happen to special operations. We are too smart for this. We're too successful and highly trained. Now we're seeing people in the special operations community taking their lives. So the message of Force Blue, betterment, buoyancy, and belonging is needed now more than ever.
Yeah. I mean, I think you see that so much. It's actually almost elevated for those in the special operations community, because the pressure cooker that they were under while serving is so intense. And then they leave.
Yes.
Listen, we talk about it every day at Travis Manion Foundation. Like when men and women take off that uniform, and you hear it almost in like, oh, they lost their sense of purpose and we want to give sense of purpose back. And it almost seems like trite in the way you're saying it, but it could be more true. And this idea that like, it's not just their sense of purpose, it's their sense of purpose that existed in the military was their identity. And that is
absolutely
gone. It's completely gone. So
absolutely. You know what? I still struggle, Ryan, now. I'm struggling now. Like to read, I have to wear my reading glasses now, right? And I have to train different now. I'm not the same freaking warrior I was at 25, at 35. I am having to accept that the identity of being the stellar, hard to kill juggernaut of Recon, the juggernaut. And if you find out from some of my community members, I was respected as the fastest, the strongest, the best fighter, the most endurance, and the greatest attitude, positive attitude. That identity is no longer fitting with my life. And that's been a big shift for me just in the last couple of years. I'm a family man now. My life revolves around the home and the hearth, and how do I protect and provide, and how am I there for my mate. Jade has been incredibly healing for me, and a mirror. She's been a mirror to everything that I put aside and never wanted to deal with, and everything that I have missed through my Arrested Development and my hardness and coldness necessary for Recon. Everything that I was missing, she's a mirror for. And I hold her tight, and I hold on to her like gold for that reason. This is the new Rudy Reyes. Recon is the greatest thing I've ever done, and being a team leader is the most honorable thing I've ever done for my country. But now I'm on a new mission for my family, and then eventually I'm going to get to me. Yeah. Eventually I'm going to get to me. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure I'm looking right over to the left of me. I see Travis's Recon paddle, and like, that's a part of who you are, but it can't be everything. Right. And I think that's sometimes it's hard for these men and women that to find is like, it's a part of you, but it can't be all of you, because you're not going to make
well said
like civilian world if it is, it just isn't.
Well said. And think about this, Ryan, anthropologically, men at my age that went through so much combat, warriors at my age, by the time they were my age, first of all, very few were my age. Most all of them died in their 20s and 30s, some in their teens. And those that were my age, anthropologically, just a few hundred years ago, we were kings or warlords. And 1,000 years ago, it was the Genghis, it was the Caesar. You know, it was the conquistadors, the conquistadors. And that way of living is not healthy for the world we live in now. Am I just gonna slaughter anybody that disagrees with me and just take what they've got? Or am I gonna smash through my life, you know, metaphorically like a conquistador and damage everything to go forward and not care about what's left on the wakes? I've already done that. And that's not the way. That's not the way. Take the best parts of discipline and honor we got from the military and now shape it into a way that you can live a life that is fulfilling and uplifting to those around you. That's what I'm doing my best at.
I love it. So, Rudy, I always end up at every conversation talking a little bit about resilience. And if you look at your life path, it's pretty easy to see that I don't know how much you study resilience, but you live a resilient life. How does resiliency show up for you every day?
You know, I get up with arthritis and some damage from living a life of extremity. And I take time on the bed, moving my hips and my knees so that I can roll out to my feet on the floor. And when I stand up, I say, I get to do this today. Not, wow, I used to be somebody that was such a bad motherfucker, and now I'm getting old. I say, I get to do this today. So I approach my day, my tasks, my family, is that it's a privilege to do this today. And I think with that attitude, we can all get a little bit more juice out of the squeeze of life. I also watch really emotional movies and stuff like that, and I cry, feeling these feelings that I've never allowed myself to feel before. I'm watching Ted Lasso. I had no idea it was such a good film or a series, and the guy is a consummate optimist. Reminds me a lot of myself, and he's going through struggles with his family, and because he's such a good man, a lot of people hate him in the beginning because nobody can have that much love in their heart, right? Well, that's not true. We can. And you know what? Love in our heart makes us resilient.
Yeah. Perspective too. And
yes, it does.
Clearly wake up with a little arthritis, but good perspective. And that's what it's all about.
That's right. Yeah. You said it well.
Yeah. Rudy, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. I'll be seeing you on my screen next Wednesday, watching you again with my 8-year-old son. Thanks for all you continue to do. Thanks for sharing your story. I know it's going to resonate with a lot of our audience, and I appreciate you being on The Resilient Life.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure, and I'll be on here again with you, or I'll have you on my podcast when I create one.
Okay, that's a plan. That's a plan.